Welcome to another edition of the Penn State Blitz here on Penn Live. Greg Pickel, we have a lot of Penn State stuff to talk about, but first of all, what is the deal with this weather?
Not good.
Unbelievable. I hope it's not like this on Saturday.
It looks okay. It looks going to be cold, but none of this snow, rain stuff that we're dealing with today, Tuesday.
I don't know, between this and the longest game ever played Saturday in East Lansing.
NCAA says no, Bob. No longest game because no weather delay counts.
It's just been crazy, and now it was. I think I was in shorts yesterday, and now it's. I think it was hailing.
It was
on my way into the studio, but it's Rutgers week. Penn State's program is reeling a little bit after what happened in East Lansing, a 27-24 loss on the last play. Had a lot of chances to win the game, they couldn't. James Franklin had some interesting takes after that game, Greg, and we're going to get to that in the four downs on first down. But just a reminder to the fans that you need to subscribe to the Penn Live's Penn State channel on YouTube. Tremendous stuff, tremendous video. It's really, really, I think, come together in a very short time. Enjoy it every time I'm on there. You can get there by going to youtube.com/allpennstate. You need to subscribe. You're missing out. So let's get to first down here. We're going to go four downs. Hopefully you guys will have some comments for us or maybe some questions. I'm sure you'll have some questions after what happened on Saturday. But first down, Greg, I'm going to read you a James Franklin quote. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit, but you tell me what your reaction was to it. He said today at his press conference, "You take care of today, it will take care of tomorrow." Greg, what is it and what is this all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he made his point very clear after the game on Saturday that he felt like they were listening to too much outside noise, that things were bleeding in, the college football playoff, being number 2.
Big Ten title game.
Yep, all these different things. And I think that, like he said, he didn't think they were too far off pace, but that they sort of let the door open too much is how he phrased it in terms of letting that stuff in. So he was at the answer to that. That answer came in response to a question about the Big Ten and how things play out with the college football playoff and the rankings and the selection committee and scheduling and all that. And his response basically is what it's been for most of his time at Penn State, though he strayed a little bit from it from time to time over the last couple of weeks. But Bob, he said, we're going to worry about today, and tomorrow, at Rutgers on Saturday, and then we'll go from there. Very much the want-to-know mantra, Super Bowl every week mantra that we've heard from James Franklin all year long.
I think, actually, just to follow up on what you said, he has a point because it came out after the game that Saquon Barkley at one point said to a Michigan State player, "Hey, Ohio State's losing." So it tells you that the focus was, they were in a tight game, and that was on Barkley's mind. So I think maybe James probably has a point. I'm sure he's going to get that message across to his team if he hasn't already. But yeah, with 3 games to go, starting with Rutgers Saturday at noon, I think that big picture, a couple of things are probably off the table. But I mean, they still have a chance for double-digit wins, and they can still play in a great bowl game. And I think all 3 games are very winnable, to close out the season.
Agreed.
Second down here on the Blitz, the Penn State Blitz. Bigger issue, Greg, coming out of the Michigan State game. Saquon Barkley's workload, or the 3 turnovers that they were all 3 interceptions against Michigan State. What in your mind? What do you think James Franklin was more focused on?
Oh, turnovers. There's no doubt about it. He made that crystal clear that we can throw for he said we can throw for as many yards as we want to. We can throw 3 touchdown passes, I believe, but if we, and of course he's speaking as Penn State, going to throw 3 interceptions and lose the turnover battle that way, we're not going to win too many games. Of course, the flip side of that is if the defense musters a few more turnovers, if they play like they did earlier in the season, if they get a pass rush, if Brian the Workie is not allowed to throw all over creation, maybe those 3 turnovers don't matter as much. I agree with him. He's not wrong. The problem is that he was right. When teams take away Saquon Barkley, they're giving Trace McSorley the opportunity to throw for 400 yards, which he did. But when you cancel out your 3 touchdowns, Bob, with 3 interceptions, you get a couple untimely drops, some untimely penalties. Those are the things that sink you. So I think he was fair to point out the fact that the turnovers were costly, no doubt about it. The teams are going to take away Barkley, and they are. And Penn State helps take him away themselves by not being able to run block. And then you're going to throw it away 3 times. You're not going to win too many games, especially because the one that was killer was the one that was underthrown was for a touchdown. Blacknell, I believe it was the time before. That was a killer. That probably would have put Michigan State away. Instead, it ended up being part of the comeback and ultimately a win for the Spartans.
Are you surprised? I know that James Franklin always says, well, who gets the ball depends on what Trace sees and what the defense is playing. Are you surprised, though, that I think Saquon combined, rushes, receptions, and kickoff returns, it was close. I think it might have been 20.
Yeah.
You look at what they did with him in the Iowa game, where I think he had 40 touches. Are you surprised, though, that he wasn't featured maybe a little bit more, maybe as a receiver?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a lot of fans want to know right now, is if were there ways to get him more involved. And I guess the question is, you have to go back and really dial in on how much pass protection he was doing. Was he in a position where it was either take him out of the passing game or take Mike Gesicki out of the passing game? If that's your question, it has to be Barkley. I think Gesicki, between his route running, his leaping ability, catching ability, I mean, Barkley is a dynamic receiver, but he's had a couple of drops the last couple of weeks. And worse than that, you're going to have to put him in the slot because the wheel route's going to take too long to develop out of the backfield the way these guys are blocking right now. I think they could have utilized him more that way, but you understand, if you go back and look at it, I think it probably makes sense why they didn't.
Yeah, and I guess I should point out, he actually did throw a pass in the game. I think he threw a 20-yard completion to Mike Gesicki. So they are trying to get him the ball. But I just wonder now, this late in the season, I think you're going to see maybe a more concerted effort. We'll see. Third down here on the Penn State Blitz. So they're playing Rutgers, and James Franklin was asked about recruiting in the state of New Jersey. How important is the state of New Jersey, Greg, to Penn State's present and future when it comes to recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you see the impact. I mean, just on offense alone, you have Brendan Mann, you have Juwan Johnson, our special teams, Herb Charles, Manny Bowen, Jason Kabinda, a few other guys on defense. I mean, this is a pretty Garden State flavored roster.
Don't forget about Mike Gesicki.
Right. So, I mean, you have all these guys from Jersey. There's no doubt about it that these guys are key contributors. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, we've seen Penn State go into New Jersey and get some big names. We've seen other programs do it. Ohio State, Michigan in particular. Miami's come up and got a few good ones. I mean, there's not a ton of talent in the Garden State this year in terms of maybe some other years, but there are some good players down there, no question about it. I mean, I think you look at it, and Penn State continues to pick out a guy or two a year from there, which they have been doing the last few years, and they'll be just fine. And I think you continue to try and recruit that state, as well as Maryland and Virginia and, of course, Pennsylvania as well. You want to try and get as many of those top guys as possible. There'll be years when there's not a whole lot of talent within the region, like the 2019 class, for example. But when it's there, you have to take at least one or two out, and Penn State's been able to do that, Bob.
Wrapping up here with fourth down, it was bound to be asked.
Oh, yeah.
Greg Pickel, where in the world has Tommy Stevens been since the Michigan game? And why will Penn State not put him in the game? It turns out it's a little bit of a complicated issue.
I didn't really think it was an answer from James, quite honestly. I didn't. He said all but once that they've had a package for him in the playbook.
Yeah.
But sometimes he mentioned Brent Pry, which is confusing. I think it was the overarching point, though, that there's a lot of things that go into the game plan. And it's a matter of whether and whatever special packages Brent Pry has on defense, like Joe Moorhead has on offense, Tommy Stevens, of course, being one of those special packages, that sometimes you feel comfortable calling it and sometimes you don't. And apparently they have not felt either comfortable, confident, or otherwise felt it was a worthy play call. I know fans probably frustrated by that because they wanted to see him. He's had success. I would just say this. The stuff Penn State had success on early in the season isn't really working right now.
Sure.
So you have to wonder if one of those things that was successful early on, the Tommy Stevens package, if there's things that they see on their base looks and things like that they think, okay, maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe we don't want to take Mike Gesicki off the field and his blocking ability. That's the only thing I can think of at this point. And I know that's probably not going to be the answer people want to hear. I don't think Franklin's answer is what people want to hear, but that's the only thing I can deduce at this point.
Yeah, and to me, the thing that has stood out with Tommy this year is, other than, mop-up duty in games, Penn State seems very reluctant to use him against good teams.
Yeah.
You almost always see him in the backfield, in games where they feel pretty comfortable that they're going to win the game or they have a lead. You don't see him on the field.
Yeah.
He didn't play against Ohio State. He didn't play against Michigan State. And he disappeared earlier in the season. You just wonder about that reluctance. But I think that with Rutgers this week and Nebraska next week, I think there's a really good chance you're going to see Tommy on the field. He is fun to watch, and I think Penn State could probably use another weapon. So we'll see if we see him against Rutgers. That is the fourth down here on the Penn State Blitz. Just remember, we'll see if there's some questions or comments before we get to them, if there are some. I think there are. Just remember, subscribe to subscribe to Penn Live's Penn State channel on YouTube. Great stuff. You go there to get there. You go to youtube.com/allpennstate. That is the Live Penn State channel on YouTube. You gotta subscribe. So let's go, Greg.
All right.
To some questions and comments. Are people unhappy?
A little bit, yeah. The first one was when I was going to throw it back to you if we continue the Stevens discussion. But do you think it has as much as anything else to do with not getting him hurt? Should Penn State need to be in a situation where it needs its backup, especially at Michigan State? Sean Clifford didn't travel.
Yeah.
So it was Trace McSorley, it was Tommy Stevens, and then it was Billy Fessler and or Michael Schuster. Two guys who've been instrumental when it comes to helping signal in plays, running the scout team, stuff like that. They're not the guys you want on the field at Michigan State. So you think that has something to do with it as much as anything else? And what did you make of James Franklin making the point after that answer about Tommy Stevens to say, yeah, but I love to get as many guys into the game as possible because I think it's good for the locker room. I thought that was sort of telling a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's definitely playing this week. It is a concern when, he had referenced in the spring Joe Moorhead and he were both concerned about the number 3 quarterback.
Yeah.
Had not stepped up, and to me that is about Jake Zembeck probably not being ready to play, and that may be a concern. But with 3 games left in the regular season and 1 more game left for the bowl game, there's less of a season and less of a chance, I think, statistically or odds-wise, that Tommy's going to get hurt. I just think that you play your best guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use the same argument. Why do you play your best guys on special teams?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Guys do it. I think I think that Penn State probably realizes. I think they probably should have had him on the field, even if it's just 2 or 3 plays, just to take some of the attention away from Saquon. I think that's something the fans want to see, and I don't blame them for being curious about. That's a long spell to not see Tommy Stevens.
Agreed. All right, moving on. We have another one. Was Penn State ever deserving of being number 2 in the country, Bob? Yes or no?
Oh, tough one. The way it's playing out, I always kind of felt that like they were a top team, and after they beat Michigan, I really thought they were a legit top 5 team. What happened in Ohio State down the stretch, it looked to me like Ohio State was a better team. For whatever reason, they just looked like Penn State had no answers. I do think they left a win on the field in East Lansing. I thought if they just – people want to talk about the coaching and what – if Penn State had executed down the stretch, they're going to win that game. There were 2 or 3 plays that killed them. You mentioned Trace McSorley got hit as he was making a throw to Saeed Blacknall, who was cutting across the field for it looked like it was going to be a 50-yard touchdown. It was an interception. DeAndre Tompkins couldn't hold a slant on a 4th and 3 play with the game tied and about 4.5 minutes to go. Also, if you watch the tape, Greg, Barkley came open late, right across the middle. If he had been able to hold the ball for 1 more split second, if he just pitches that to Barkley, Barkley's going to walk into the end zone. And then Marcus Allen, the roughing the passer penalty, when they have them stopped, I was pretty convinced there, where they were on the field, Michigan State's going to punt and they're going to go into overtime. I do think they probably should be a 1-loss team at this point, but I don't like to second guess. It takes away from what Michigan State did. It takes away from what Ohio State did. I feel like they're a 1-loss team. They left one out on the field against Michigan State. The answer to that question is, based on the way teams are playing now, they probably aren't. They were never really a number 2 team, but you could make an argument they were a top 5 team.
All right, last one, Bob. Where does Penn State go from here if they win out, which I think most people expect they will? They're 30-plus point favorites this week. Next week they'll probably be 24-point favorite against Nebraska. At Maryland, probably 17 to 21 points. So they're going to be.
Look at you. I like it.
Just a little early handicapping. Look at headlines. If they win out, as the most expect they will, where do they end up bowl-wise? Do they end up in a New Year's 6 or not? And does Saquon Barkley play in a game?
That's
a tough one to end things on, Curtis, but that is what we have.
The second question is very compelling. The answer to the first question is really tied to whether the Big Ten will have a team in the national playoff. Because you have a lot of 2-loss teams, and they likely need Wisconsin to finish undefeated and win the Big Ten title,
especially with no Rose Bowl,
to be represented. And if they don't have a team in the playoff, there's a trickle-down effect.
Oh, big time.
And that will affect Penn State's positioning. I think if there is a Big Ten team in the playoff, I think it's very likely that Penn State will be or has a shot at a New Year's 6 game. But otherwise, I think they're probably looking at a Florida Bowl. And as far as Barkley, I think he really enjoys the game. I think he really enjoys his teammates, and it will be a difficult decision for him whether to play in the bowl game. My sense of it is he's got to make either a decision with his heart or a business decision. You saw what happened to Jake Butt, the Michigan tight end who played in a bowl game last year. He wrecked his knee.
A couple other guys.
Yeah, a couple other guys did too. I mean, he is sitting on a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, millions of dollars. I think he wants to play in the bowl game, but I think he definitely has to pro-con it and make a decision that's best for Saquon. And whatever he decides, I think if you're a Penn State fan, I think you have to support him. One other thing, he's closing in on the record, the rushing record that is held by Evan Royster, but I think he probably needs to play 4 games to get that. So it's another thing to monitor. He can also get 1,000 yards on Saturday. I think if he gets about 140 yards. But I really like that last question. No one's really talking about that now. But the closer we get into December, I think it's gonna pick up a little bit of momentum.
All right, Bob. That's all the questions we have. You want to give out that link one more time to subscribe?
One more time. I'm gonna try and get it actually right this time.
Perfect.
You wanna? This is where you want to go. Okay. Forget what I said earlier. It's Penn Live's Penn State channel on YouTube, and you want to go there. YouTube.com/allpennstate. I think I got it right that time.
Right,
Let's see if we can get out of here with this weather. I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope the weather clears a little bit for Saturday.